Today's episode is brought to you by the Twisted Fork. Eat, drink, and enjoy. Jeff Adams.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, Kurt.
I'm very happy and I'm honored to have you here.
I appreciate that.
I just went through your bio and we're going to actually read it out loud for the audience at home.
Oh, boy.
It's very impressive, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, you're from Maryland?
I am, Silver Spring.
And where exactly is Silver Spring?
The north edge of D.C., right over the line. Yeah. Wheaton, Silver Spring, small area. Yeah.
So you grew up there, high school, all that stuff?
Oh, yeah.
And how was the music scene then back there?
Well, we went down, as I got a little older, up towards my teens, I started going down over the line into Georgetown, D.C., where it was happening. And that was a totally different culture than the town I grew up in. I mean, like opposites. So as I got older and more aware of things, I realized that a lot. But there was the Bayou of Georgetown, if you may have ever heard of that, an exceptional club for many, many years. Countless names, big names, played there through decades. And I played there quite a bit with the band Face Dancer that I was with in the late 70s.
Well, great. So we know what we're going to do now. We're going to let the audience hear your bio, and then we're going to talk about those bands.
All right.
So Jeff Adams is currently co-founder and lead guitarist of The Blue Genie.
Yes, indeed.
The Blue Genie is a wonderful, I would say, David Bowie tribute.
It is. Yeah.
There's actually a website people can go to, thebluegeniesband.com.
Right.
Described as masterful lead guitarist, he is characterized as skillfully providing essential melodic components, solos, intros, outros, and adding his signature sound to the Blue Genies, a David Bowie tribute presentation. Inducted to Maryland's Hall of Fame in 2017.
Yes, indeed.
He has been featured in Guitar Player and Guitar World magazines. A native of the Washington, D.C. area, Adams' career was launched through the band Face Dancer on Capitol EMI Records, with 2 successful albums recorded in L.A. and London. Jeff has toured and shared lead guitar duties with notable artists, including Kim Simmons of the Savoy Brown Band, Decca Records, Les Dudek, CBS Records. He achieved personal success writing, producing, and performing all instrumentation on his solo album, Death by 1,000 Licks. Cool. It's a pretty cool title.
I get
KJ Productions, as well as other projects. So here are some notes of interest. Recording with Face Dancer at Air Studios, famous place in London.
Yep.
You met and hung out with George Martin.
Yeah.
That's very impressive, man.
Yeah.
So I guess he owned the studio.
He did at the time.
Paul and Linda McCartney.
Yep.
I mean, I hear a rumor that you might have a Paul McCartney story to tell us.
I sure do. I sure do.
Brian May. Gosh, it isn't getting bigger than that. Freddie Mercury. Pete Townsend. Wow. I mean, I'm a big Who fan. Rick Nielsen and others. So you co-wrote the song Red Shoes for the band's first album, This World,
right, that
actually charted in Billboard's top 179.
Yes, it did.
Now let's talk about some guitars. Sandy. So in 1977, you said you had a famous guitar. It was a world famous 59 Les Paul, which today would be valued around $600,000, which is pretty insane. And in later years, Gibson reissued Sandy, making her famous.
Yeah.
In 1978, you designed a guitar known as the Golden Eagle and contracted unknown at the time luthier Paul Reed Smith
Yes,
to build it. The Eagle turned out to be a PRS prototype, now valued at more than $500,000. The basic design is still being manufactured today. Before I continue, I want to talk about NAMM because I've gone to NAMM several times. And they would have like a Paul Reed Smith room.
Right.
And the cat from The Doors was there at the time. Who's the guitar player at The Doors? John, is it, I forgot his name. But he was there demoing the PRS stuff.
Oh, cool.
It was very cool, man. Mm. And then Fender had its own room.
Right.
And so have you been in NAMM?
I've only seen video.
Yeah, you walk in and it's like, they set it up so it's like a museum where you see the early Fender stuff and it gets older and older and then it gets bigger and brighter and you see all the stuff on the walls. and it's like a traveling museum.
Right.
And then obviously, there's the Les Paul and all the other wonderful guitars. But I just thought that was interesting. Break Fail. That's how I first met you at Break Fail.
That's right.
Break Fail was a dream band for you. It was a full stage of 8, including lead vocals, 2 female backup singers, guitar, sax, keys, bass, and drums. You had a 90-minute show of original material
Right.
from your own personal catalog. And these were songs that spanned over 40 years. And unfortunately, the band disbanded 2 years ago. But currently, you're touring with the Blue Genies, and you're working with your longtime writing partner, singer extraordinaire, Mr. John West.
Correct.
And you're having a blast doing it. And we're gonna let the viewers. We're gonna put up some pictures on the screen there so people can see what we're talking about. But very impressive.
Thank you. Thank you.
What is your favorite part about what you do, about music?
My favorite part is writing and playing guitar. Um, I I I would have to say that all that wrapped up in the fact that I'm really not happy if I'm not playing music that either I wrote or I love enough to wish that I wrote it. If I would never make a good cover guy. I mean, this Bowie thing is really the first cover, we'll call it a cover project tribute, that I've ever really taken seriously or really done. I've always been in original projects, but if I'm not passionate about it, um, I can't get behind it. Also, I'm not that kind of guitar player. I play my own way. I have ever since I started. When I was 14, and if I got $1 million offer to join a cover band or another tribute that I didn't care about the music, I just wanted the money, I wouldn't do a good job. I wouldn't get the job. You know.
How would you describe your playing style?
That's pretty much impossible for me to do because it's totally me. Um, since I first started playing, and I figured out the theory behind it on my own. I did take a few lessons from a jazz player that kind of put everything in perspective for me, but I always was developing my own style. I did very little copying other guitarists, which you do as a kid because it's how you learn some chops and get your hands moving on the guitar. But I've always focused on my own style.
Is it more of a blues style, would you say? Was there blues elements, jazz elements?
A little bit of everything. Very little blues at this point because I played a lot of blues as a kid, and but I kind of I love the blues and I appreciate great blues players, but it wasn't really for me. I wanted to get into harmonic minor modes and Dorian modes, Santana and other artists that got out of the blues. If they played a blues style, it was in a little outside the box kind of stuff, like a Les Dudek, who I had. You read that I worked with him out of L.A. Wow, what a monster player! Great. I loved his style. But anyway, um, I had then another thing in recent years, or say 25 years or so, I had a couple of injuries to my right hand that when I came back from that, I seriously had to change a lot of techniques. So that really altered the way I play. And again, it was totally my own invention. So for me to evaluate it or say, I couldn't possibly do
So
that.
you have a unique style.
That I do.
Interesting.
Whether it's any good or not is another story, but I definitely have my own way
Well,
of
I mean,
playing.
you're true to the art and the art form that you're an artist and you're creating art, and it's your vision, right? It's your style,
It is, and that's what I love most of all. Absolutely.
creating.
Creating.
Do you have a
Absolutely.
lot of songs that you have a lot of original songs that perhaps you have a vault full of stuff that you could put out?
I do. I absolutely do. I think that my wife is probably one of the few people that knows it all, or And then even at this time, I'll relax with an acoustic guitar, and I'm always building something new, creating something new, whether instrumental or I love instrumental music. To me, melodies in an instrumental done well, it's singing a song without words, and I love that. Yeah.
So how did some of these song ideas come to you? Like, I remember Keith Richards was being interviewed, and he was talking about how things just came out of the universe, and just like he'd wake him up in the middle of the night, and he'd have a dream or something. Song would come to his head. He would quickly get out of bed, grab his guitar and his little tape recorder, and he would play it.
Right, right. And of course, I've done that. Now, I think there's really only one instance where I actually dreamt about something, and I woke up that morning and picked up the guitar and logged it, so I wouldn't let it go. But but most of the time, it's a mood. First of all, I'm in a mood for it, to where my mind, wanders, and and it could be just a simple 3-note lick that sparks something else, and then if I like it, I'll develop it and let it turn into a song with an arrangement. Always found that to be the toughest part, is to finish a song. For me, like grab a recorder and lay it down. I call those blurbs. I have thousands of them in files. Um, and I've gone back through files at times and made and said, "Oh, this music would be perfect for this idea." I just did a song for a veterans benefit. It's project support 22 project.org, a great benefit, and they asked me to create a song that they want to use with some promo, and I just now have the song done. But I did that. I went back through some of my files, and I found a piece of music that fit the idea I had in mind, and then start building it. And then the hardest part, not only finishing all the words so I'm satisfied with them, but the arrangement of the song, beginning to end, it's a palatable length. It's not too short, or definitely not too long. Get the idea across, and and then record it. I'm not one of those guys that is going to write a big song and in a couple hours, and then record it, and then master it and release it, and it's a big hit. I've never done that.
Do you play all the instruments at home? Like, will you play a bass along to it and drums, maybe some keyboard?
um, I play keyboards just enough. I know where everything is, and I can pull what I want. But the only way I can record myself playing keyboards is like one or two measures at a time. And I use recording software and a floor punch, and I can't play fluently. I never wanted to. I never tried.
But it's a tool, an effective
It's a
tool
tool.
to
It's a
help you
wonderful tool.
write a song.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And bass, I definitely have. I definitely have uh, an interest somewhere in there for bass guitar. I love it. The right bass notes. I really love it when I hear a great, tasteful bass player. Um, and I've done that to some extent, but I never play a bass guitar. I use a patch in one of my recorders that makes the guitar sound like a
Sure.
bass. Then I had to learn how to handle it so that it didn't fart all the time, but if you ever check out my solo CD, you'll hear me playing bass with
Oh yeah,
on
we're
my
gonna check these
guitar.
out, and we're gonna let the viewers know how they can hear them.
I did everything on that. The drums are the drums are fantastic on that, but I programmed them. I don't play any drums.
So sometimes you're like a mad scientist, right? Putting this stuff
I
together.
love it. Love it.
And you're
Absolutely
creating.
love it.
So because your career is so big and long, I like to break it down by decade. So let's talk about the 60s. Like, so you were listening to music as a young kid,
Listening.
right? AM
Yeah.
radio, probably in the car, maybe eventually the 8 tracks.
And my older sister's Motown music and all of it. Like you mentioned the Beatles. Ed Sullivan. I was the youngest in the family, but I do remember watching that.
So was it? Take me back to that time period. So I think it was what 64.
Yeah.
Were families like knew they knew it was coming, so they all got in front of the TV and they
Oh,
knew
yeah.
the day and time it was going to be on. Like they said, hey, the Beatles are going to be on next
Yes,
week. So it
absolutely.
became like must see TV, right?
Oh, absolutely exciting. I was probably mostly excited because my sister was blown away. She was 3 years older than me, because in 65, 64, I was 11 years old. But, I was excited
But you
because
remember it. I mean,
oh
were you
yeah, I do.
inspired?
I remember the image, and of course I was, yes. And I had a buddy of mine, my neighbor, 2 doors down, and we both turned into the biggest Beatle fans,
Sure.
and we both decided we wanted to play drums. So I did
Interesting.
that for a few.
Interesting, because most people, when they see the Beatles, I would think they'd want to sing or play guitar.
Yeah.
But you were a Ringo fan, right? You went right to the drums.
I latched right onto the drums, and I was 11 years old, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. But what I actually was blown away by was the idea of playing music. No doubt about it. Me and my buddy on our bikes went up to a rec center behind our house in the park, and on a weekend night, and there was a dance going on and a band playing. And we go up to the windows. All the windows are open. No, there's no AC back then, and I was just so completely mesmerized that was it. I was done.
You got bit by the bug.
I was done.
Is it because you saw live performance?
Yeah, up close,
Right.
At the right time, and I was obviously at the right age, plus the exposure I had had to whatever music leading up to that. So it bit me
And
like a
you were from
rattlesnake.
the generation, like there was thousands, if not maybe hundreds of thousands of kids around that same time
Yeah,
that all got bit at the same time.
that's right.
Because there's a lot of musicians came out of the 60s, man. That's why the 70s, I think, and we'll talk about the 70s,
You're
is
right.
the best year for music.
I
Best
agree with
decade
you.
for music. Because all these young kids that were born in the 50s became inspired in the 60s and they became musicians in the 70s.
Right. I totally agree with that. Absolutely. We grew up in the best time. I believe, not only for music, but cars.
Right, right. So now, okay, so now we're in the 60s. We're moving to the 70s now. So now you're playing drums was your first instrument. Were you in a band as a drummer?
Well, I didn't last that long on the drums. By the time, if I could tell a little story that
Sure.
means a lot to me, I was blown away with playing drums. My dad waited. He waited. He was a musician. He played guitar, some piano by ear. He was very good, and he sang these wonderful, soft country songs. And he was just wonderful. But anyway, he was a musician, and he knew he wanted to see if I was serious or not. And now I know did the right thing. But after 2 years of me, I used to make a set of drums out of kitchen stools or a 45 record on the wall as a symbol. And um, I didn't let up. My interest didn't let up. And he saw that. So finally, on a Christmas morning, I get a brand new set of Slingerlands. And my father really couldn't afford it. That's how, but he did that for me. And anyway, so I played those and played. And by the time I was 14, my dad called me up and said, "Hey, you want to go up? Want to go up to the music store with me? I'm going to buy a new guitar." I said, "Sure," and went up to the little mom and pop shop. He's looking at guitars and picks one out, and he dropped me off because he was going in another direction. And he said, "Hey, Jeff, hey, my old guitar on the back seat." He said, "Hey, why don't you put this in the corner of your room? It'll look cool." I said, "Yeah, okay." And by the next day, I was totally hooked on the guitar. My brother had learned a couple chords and had a guitar. I didn't pay any attention, but that guitar that my dad gave me, uh, that I was off.
So
And
lit a fuse.
oh, I mean, my interest in playing music just went from here to to the sky, and it was a great experience. Um, Very short time, I sold my drums and bought an old Gibson Melody Maker and a couple of amplifiers, and yeah, just never looked back.
If you're looking for new guitar strings, whether it's a 6-string or a bass, look no further than Blue Magic Strings. I highly recommend them. They're the best strings in the business, the best strings money can buy.
So,
Were you in a neighborhood with a lot of other kids, so it was easy to put a band together?
um, actually, in a sense, yeah. Very close by a neighborhood I landed in my early guitar days with electric guitars and amps. Ended up in a friend of mine's basement constantly. He had picked up the bass. We started pretty much together, and then we brought in a drummer and just kept doing that. Um, yeah, that was. So now we're into the early '70s, and by '73 or so, I was advanced enough to have joined a couple of bands in the area that were playing bars and
Now, at
stuff
this
like
point,
that.
were you more of a rhythm player, more of a lead player?
Always lead guitar. I'm not that I was good enough, but I was lucky enough to be invited to come play lead guitar because that's how
And
you
you were probably
develop.
very good for your age at that point.
I have no idea.
Self-taught, you said, right? Self-taught?
You know, Kurt, I I still do the same thing since I started playing guitar until now. When I try to evaluate my playing, I cannot be objective about it. The only things I see are the things I'm not good at about it. The different techniques.
Like, I mean, we could all, I'm a musician as well. We can all go insane if we start dwelling
Yeah,
on what we can't do, right?
I do it. I do it all the time. So, all I can say is that I was blessed that I was invited many times to come play lead guitar.
Would you consider yourself to be a perfectionist?
I guess so, because all I do is critique myself.
And that drives you to keep practicing, keep learning,
Absolutely.
keep evolving?
Yes, it does. But there's another side to that. What drives me? I love it. I love practicing. My
Is
wife
it
will
safe to
tell you.
say at home there's a guitar in your hand at all times? You have one of those guys, like there's one in the living room, there's one in the bedroom, there's one over there in the kitchen. So you always have access to a guitar, right? And you can just grab
Well,
one.
I have my little studio where there's plenty of guitars, and then when the weather's good, I'm on the lanai with an acoustic guitar. Yeah, my wife will tell you, but she supports me. Good thing.
No, it's great. So, okay. So now you're in a band, you're playing lead guitar. You guys are having a lot of fun. I'm assuming back then it was a cover band, right? Tribute.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh
Cover.
yeah.
And, you were probably doing the high school dances, maybe doing some clubs, some bars, maybe like parties.
Yeah, some bars and then once in a while at a school function or something like that. Um, and the good thing about the cover bands back then, like when I was a kid doing it, your favorite music was what people wanted to hear. I mean, it was like doing Hendrix and Clapton and Zeppelin
Yeah.
and
Stones, Who, like great stuff.
yeah, all the good stuff. The British stuff was just on top of the hill, and so it was a lot more fun for me to be in a cover band back then. But I was just focusing on, if anything, if any song had a was built on a progression that I liked personally. I've told you I liked, like I said, I like playing in certain modes. Some um, then I would just love it, and I'd always play my own way. I always would try to do a signature lick that was important to the song. I always wanted to make sure I was honoring the song, and I do that now playing the Bowie material, but I work out my own solos. With the Bowie material now, the good thing is that he's done so many versions of each hit song with so many different guitar players that it's like, you get a free pass. I get a free pass to do what I want because there's no standard
Sure.
licks,
Yeah. Stevie Ray Vaughan was one time traveled with him and toured
Oh
with him.
yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
heard the songs. I'm like, is
And
that Stevie Ray Vaughan playing with Bowie? I'm like, yeah, it is. Wow.
oh yeah, and
I was
his
surprised.
Bowie's studio release of "Let's Dance," Stevie Ray
That's right.
playing guitar was great. Yeah, great stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so now you're playing in these bands and you're having a lot of fun playing music that you listen to. And I'm sure all the people, your fans and friends were there. What was the first real band that you said, okay, now we're in a real band and we're making money? Like, do you remember that band?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That would take me up to the middle 70s. In fact, it was in 76 when I was right in my hometown. I was up at a shopping center. I was buying a pair of jeans, and the girl behind the counter cashing me out I never didn't know me from Adam. I never saw her before. But looking at me, she asked me, "Do you play guitar?" I had the massive hair and I was skinny. Okay,
And
so
which everybody back then had the hair and the
well,
skinny.
all the musicians did. I think it was in a little later years when the fans started doing it too. But at that point, I kind of remember it that way. At least
You're right. You know why? Because remember the Beatles got criticized for having hair that was too long, and that was
yeah,
even long hair.
yeah, I remember that. Right. So, so she asked me if I play guitar, and I said, yeah. And she goes, well, my boyfriend is looking for a guitar player for his band. Would you be interested in if could he call you? And I said, sure. I gave her my number. And the next day, of course, became a good friend and longtime associate by the name of Scott McGinn. He was the leader of the band Face Dancer at the time, and they were regionally successful, like in DC. They had just come down from Rhode Island and they played around DC. And I remember, and I had actually just seen an article in the Washington Post about in the music section about this band Face Dancer, and but I didn't know who it was until Scott called me and asked me if I wanted to come audition. I said, yeah. So this was early in the week, and that Wednesday, the next day, I had a small Marshall stack, and they had a band house right in Wheaton, just a couple miles from where I lived. And I went over and played with them. They asked me to join the band, and 2 nights later, I'm on stage in front of 2,000 people in Northern Virginia, and I had just come out of a of a basement band, you know, or played a few bars with 40 people, or something like that. And that was an experience.
So
It,
was Face Dancer all original?
not at that time. We were doing about 50-50, and the cover material they did, it was very select. It didn't come from top 40 list or anything. And I liked a lot of it. I really liked it, and I really liked the original ideas. And then I started contributing gradually with Scott. He was the main writer, um, and I loved that part of the band, that first album phase of the band. Those couple of years, I liked that. I loved that the best.
Is it safe to say that in that time period in the 70s, a lot of young musicians were purposely writing originals because they wanted to get a record deal and they wanted to
Oh
make
yeah,
a career out of it?
absolutely. That was the dream. That was. I'm a big believer in manifest. You manifest what you're going to have. And I spent years practicing, and then Face Dancer came along, and I all of a sudden I thought I might have a shot with this, and my big goal was to record for a major label, and I didn't realize till later years that I should have manifested more because getting the deal, it was like, and recording for a major label was a huge accomplishment, but it didn't mean a thing unless you're ready to get over the next two mountains. Like of course, you have to have a sellable product. Of course, I believe we did, but then you have to get through the politics of the record company business, the industry, and it sucked. I didn't know that as a kid when I was dreaming. But yeah, you're right. Kids loved it like we did, and that's your dream. But
And then you would see bands make it. So like
yeah,
then the carrot was like there because you're like, wait a minute, they just got a deal. We can get a deal, right?
yeah, well, we're gonna try like hell. So when I joined Face Dancer, we had a meeting at the band house around this table. I'll never forget it. And with manager and wanted to let everyone know because I wasn't the only new member. There was a rhythm guitar player that joined who was a really good singer by the name of Dave Utter. Rest in peace. He passed away several years ago. But and say, okay, uh, we're going to give this a year with everything we got to get a deal. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, and we'll probably go our separate ways. Okay. Okay. And we worked our butts off. The band at that time had discovered not only the DC, that market, which was okay, but the band had discovered the Baltimore market, which was unbelievable. You want to talk about some uh, down home party rock and roll people. It was like, wow, and so Face Dancer was just, we were like, we ended up the Beatles of that whole area.
So I was going to say, you guys were in high demand,
Yes,
and every Saturday night you guys were gigging on some stage somewhere.
3-4 nights a week.
Okay, that much.
Yeah.
So now, was that your
Insane.
full-time gig? Were you doing other things, or were you
Oh,
just
no.
you were just doing music?
Oh, that was it. Yeah, full time. The only thing I was doing other than playing shows with Face Dancer was practicing.
Yeah.
I used to come home, I get home at 3 in the morning, and I felt like, hey, now I'm totally warmed up. Let's practice. And I would show up at the next show. My fingers were constantly sore, really sore. I went through that a lot. I even had to change some technique over the years
Yeah,
because,
use different strings now because you're not going to slice your fingers off.
well, no, but I actually changed the whole way I bend strings because the way I learned growing up was tearing my cuticles up. And you talk about pain like Chinese torture. Anyway, um, so
Okay, so Face Dancer is now very popular. Did you have representation? Did you have management? What
Yep.
was needed to get that band to the next level?
Well, we had serious go-getter management. Absolutely, bottom line. Without that, we had, in my opinion, a lot of people's opinion, we had really, really strong material, songs that
Was local
deserved to.
DJs playing it? Like, were you bribing, or like sometimes they had like management would go and bribe a DJ,
Oh,
whether it's on a station or at a club, to say play this.
we didn't have to do any of that because by the time we recorded the first album, first of all, I just mentioned that the year plan that we laid out, it took a year and a half. So by the time a year went by, the last thing any of us were thinking was that we're giving up on this. Not a chance, because we were showcasing for RCA, Atlantic. Um, uh,
Now,
uh,
would those guys come to you, or would you go out to LA?
no, they came to us, and our project manager, who ended up to be our project manager from Capitol, was coming down from the New York office, and we showcased at our favorite venue in Essex, Maryland, right outside of Baltimore. A great club, and so every time somebody come to see us play, and agents as well, we shopped agencies forever, but here's us with 1,500 people packed into this place, and they knew every word to every
How
song.
cool is that, man? That must have felt great.
Oh, yeah, it was that's why I laugh about it, but we were actually the Beatles of that
Yeah,
area.
I believe it.
And it was a great time in my life. That's for sure. Um, so we had 3 offers. We ended up with 3 contract offers, and now, of course, I was not at all involved in the business. I was just, at that point, I was, what's going, I'm listening and I'm part of it. But we did have that go-getter management, and however it turned out, we decided on the offer from Capitol Records. Um, then we signed with Screen Gems Publishing, um, and recorded the first album. And then the Tower in LA, we were there many times. The Tower in LA decided to put everything, all their promotional budget money behind the Knack, My Sharona. So I hope I'm not jumping the gun, but I'm giving you
No,
a
it's fine.
little.
I
So
remember that song.
Yeah,
It's a very annoying song.
yeah, I thought so. But Little River Band, Bob Seger, Sammy Hagar, even Paul McCartney,
When it was
all
Wings, or when he left
Paul
Wings.
McCartney
The
in
so
1980, 79,
Yeah,
80. I
that's when he was
guess it was
solo.
Wings, but I thought it was just Paul
It's a
McCartney,
great question.
and I can't answer that. I
Probably
don't,
was solo by then.
but I do know this, that Paul McCartney left Capitol because he didn't like what was going on, and now he later came back because, but meanwhile, little guy like Face Dancer, we didn't stand a chance. We had promotional money spent by regional offices, capital offices across the country who really liked the album. They had a certain discretionary budget of their own, and they used it because they liked it. So we were getting airplay in little spots all over the country. Now in the Baltimore, Virginia, Pennsylvania region, DC, um, we were on all the time. In fact, we still are in some of the Baltimore stations, mainly one song, but some of the others. Um, and 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 we're even still getting airplay in different parts of the world. Um, in the early '90s, a UK label, Rock Candy Records, you may have heard of them. Um, they bought the licensing for the first Face Dancer album, and they remastered it and released it, and that got us international interest. And the band was long gone. It was crazy. Um, but so anyway, they the album wasn't going anywhere without promotional
Sure.
budget from the tower.
Did they have you touring though? Were you opening for other bands and then being able to play the album live
Well, yeah,
at the
yes.
venues?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we shopped agencies during that whole process, of that whole time of the time we got from when we got signed, record the album was released, and we never signed with an agency. I don't really know why. Like I said, I wasn't at the table with all the business meetings. I didn't know what was going on. But through that process, we this agency and that agency would throw us a tour, say, "Hey, why don't you go on with?" We went out with Judas Priest, uh, uh, Charlie Daniels. I mean, there was a lot of mismatches, but
Sure.
um,
One time Jimi Hendrix opened for the Monkees. The Monkey fans
that's
didn't
right.
understand what was going on. Like they
I
couldn't,
remember that.
you know.
I remember that. Fantastic. Right, right. So we went through all of that. Um, then came the 2 album deal was an option. So our mission, of course, was to make sure that they picked up that option. So we had to change some personnel, but we got through that. Our project manager out of New York loved the band and believed in it, stuck with us, and we did the second album. And you mentioned a song from that second album. Times were changing a little bit. Now we're up in the '80s, uh, and our main writer, I mentioned him, Scott McGinn, um, started writing different types of things like you're talking about. What the song you mentioned,
My Girl.
"My Girl," right? Not a bad song, not a bad song. Um, but I started losing a little interest in the music.
Could I interrupt you for a second?
Sure,
Do you think that music started becoming overly produced? For an example, when we got into the '80s, I think there was more synth and there was more technology.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the classic albums
Yeah.
like Allman Brothers, live Fillmore,
right,
the Who live leads, these were raw guitar led
right,
rock records.
absolutely right.
And then I think in the '80s came, it introduced us to. There was still some rock and still some guitars, but
Yeah.
then we started hearing other things like we never heard before.
That's right. Supertramp, things like
Yeah, like more piano, more synth. It just, I think because now they're in a studio and they had these tools. So I think that producers overly produced, they overthought it and they produced
yeah.
layers and layers and layers and layers. Whereas like some of the best live recordings were just raw,
Yeah. You're right about
What are your
that.
thoughts on that?
You're absolutely right. Into the '80s and beyond, the technical side creeped more and more in until finally, what do we got now? AI. But you're absolutely right. Uh, and the type of music that people were listening to was shifting as well. I mean, there was the punk thing came in. We actually Face Dancer actually did a show with Iggy Pop and the Ramones. We did it. It was, I mean, I loved all of it, but a lot of mismatches because we were like you say from the '70s. Two guitars and very little keyboards and just good songs.
Fame takes a man to think things over. Fame makes you lose, it's hard to swallow. Fame takes you down when things are hollow. Fame, not to blame, not to blame, just enough to drive you insane.
Some nice vocal harmonies too.
Oh yeah,
You guys could all sing together.
yeah. Not me, but the band had strong. It wasn't a heavy vocal harmony band. It was a rock band. With when I say rock band, the songs weren't heavy. No heavy metal type of play at all. There was always a good hook and a good
So
arrangement.
is it safe to say they were radio friendly songs?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And I take very little credit because I was a writer since I started playing guitar, but I was too shy to let my ideas out, and I didn't let much out. I was afraid people wouldn't like it. I had no experience being a comprehensive songwriter. I just had ideas.
Well, that's a maturation process. I mean, that's
Yeah, right.
musicians are always evolving, right? And
That's right.
so you were waiting for your time.
And that's exact. So at that point in time, it was very rare. But I did happen to co-write both the singles from both albums, and a few other tunes during the Face Dancer days. And then after that, I started. I gradually became a better songwriter. Like you say, maturing with it and doing it more, and finishing the song. It was real easy for me to come up with a blurb, like we were talking about, with a guitar riff, a chord change, and a melody. I was always thinking of melodies when I was, creating an idea or playing an idea. But the hard part was turning it into a song. I had to learn to do that. And anyway.
So a guy of your stature, a guy with your skill set and abilities, you've met a lot of famous musicians along the way.
Yeah.
So a lot of my viewers love to hear stories about that. Can you tell me a story
Yeah.
about some of the people that you've collaborated with, or?
Well, I did collaborate with both Kim Simmons from Savoy Brown and Les Dudek, but neither one of those projects was headed towards a new album project.
So they weren't necessarily commercial projects. They were more like just fun jamming stuff.
It was well, we were thinking in terms of commercial, for a demo for another album. With Dudek, he had done he had just come off of his 5-album deal with CBS Records, and he was working on demos to renew that or whatever deal he had on the table when I hooked up with him. And when Kim had done, he was being produced by a guy that I worked with the first Face Dancer album. That's actually how I connected with Kim Simmons. I was in LA, and my producer from the first Face Dancer album found out I was there, and he said, "Jeff, I need you." And I said, "Yeah, well, me and my drummer just came out from Maryland. We're looking for something to do." And he said, "And I need your drummer too."
Cool.
So that's how that worked.
Good timing.
But in collaborating with a named person, I have to tell this quick story. I'll smile when I say it, but it's absolutely true. But you'll see what I mean. When I was in London in 1980 recording at Air Studios, um, we got an invite to go across the hall. Paul McCartney was working on a video, a benefit video, and had Linda and she had the young son on her shoulder. This is 1980, and so part of the band, I think our manager was in there, but in the studio, and so Paul and I are standing at the console, and he keeps bringing this part of this video back, bringing it back, and then he looks at another take, and he goes, Jeff, which one you like better? And I said, I like that one, and he goes, that's the one. So I collaborated with Paul McCartney.
That's great.
But that trip, as I mentioned to you in those notes, a biggest highlight was George Martin, one of the nicest man you'd ever meet. In fact, and I was there 10 weeks, so I got to know a few people. You get to know them a little bit, other than just meeting them. In fact, it was I walked in one day into the big foyer, the big doors, and walked in with my guitar. Had a session coming up, and I see a few people way over in the corner. It's a big room, and it was George was talking to a couple of guys, and he said, "Oh, Jeff, come here." And I go walking over, and he introduced me to Brian May and Freddie Mercury, and they were very nice, but typical English, a little quiet,
different kind of humor than the Americans.
Yeah, a little,
right?
but very nice. And then my funny story about Rick Nielsen, who was a great guy. He's a real character, but he was in with Cheap Trick. George Martin was producing them in 1980. I don't remember the name of their album they were doing, but at that time they were on a mission to be the next Beatles, and they got George Martin to produce them. And in the big Studio A, the big room, they had an orchestra in there. So I thought that was fascinating. But anyway, Rick Nielsen, when he caught sight of Sandy, my 59 curly top Les Paul, he flipped out, man. And he followed me around, knocking on my whatever I was in there. And he had a stack of Polaroids, at least this thick, of his guitar collection at that time.
Yeah, he's known for that.
Oh, he's serious.
It's a crazy one. Him and Joe Bonamassa own all the great guitars.
Like 500 guitars or more, Oh, it's amazing. But he wanted Sandy, and he's, Jeff, look, whatever you want to trade. We get back to New York, and we'll do it. But Sandy wasn't for sale at that time, and but I got to hang out with him because he was so in love with my guitar,
Sure.
So that was cool. The Pretenders were working on an album. I hung out with the guitar player and drummer quite a bit because there was a cantina upstairs with a Space Invader machine. And I just happened to be a champion at that game. I had done that, at a friend of mine's venue in Baltimore, hanging out for many hours. Anyway, so I'd hang out with them, and then Chrissy would come on the intercom, and she was the Gestapo. She would yell at these people, and they would like, boop,
how to rein them in, right?
They would run down
sure,
there.
Sure.
Anyway, Pete Townsend would come in there quite a bit. I don't think he was recording or at the time or anything, but he hung out quite a bit.
Isn't it incredible that these guys were all around the same age and they all kind of knew each other and they were buddies? And
yeah.
Apparently, when they would all come to go see Jimi Hendrix when he played in a cafe in London, and
that's right,
they would marvel at what he was doing, and they were like,
that's
Clapton
right.
and Townsend were looking at each other like, "Could you believe this?"
Yeah, that's right, man. But then I look at the British guys like Jeff Beck and so many of them, they were so freaking good.
Yeah.
At an early,
Jeff Beck was in the stratosphere, man. I mean, I personally think he's number one if I had to rank my guys.
Well, I put him right up there next to Tommy Emmanuel. It's in a different genre.
Yeah,
but
sure.
That
Where
caliber.
would Page be on your list?
He'd be way up there because he was such a great rock innovator. But no, Jeff Beck is on his own plane.
Yeah, I
You're
agree.
absolutely
I
right.
agree, man.
God, that broke my heart
Yeah.
when I read that news.
Yeah.
Killed me. You talk about a creator.
Yeah.
What guitar player can you think of who's created anywhere near the way Jeff Beck did?
But I don't think, outside of musicians, I don't think he gets a lot of enough notoriety or respect.
That's
like
right.
no one's really bringing his name up as much as they should, right?
That's right, because Jeff Beck
Wasn't commercial. Like there was a lot of
wasn't
radio
commercial.
hits. Yeah.
Clapton was a big name guitar player who hit in the commercial market big time. That's why if you looked at their net worth, Clapton was more than 500 million and Beck was like 18 million. That's exactly why, is the commercial aspect.
Right.
But Tommy Emmanuel, when Chet Atkins names who he thinks is the best acoustic guitar player on the planet, and says Tommy Emmanuel, that's saying something.
So I'm going to throw some names out here just for fun. So what do you think of Joe Bonamassa?
He's a great player. I don't, his music. I don't.
You don't feel it?
I admire it, but it's well done, well produced, and he's very good, well rehearsed. His band, his shows are. He's a great player.
That's fine. So leave it at that. Stevie Ray Vaughan.
I really liked his originality. He took the blues to an original level. I always felt like very, very, and what an extreme performer. Really good. I put him up a little notch over Joe. Joe is technically
but Stevie Ray Vaughan was an innovator in the sense that we never saw anything like that. You know what I'm saying? Like he took the Texas blues, rock and roll,
there you go,
boogie woogie, and just ran with it. And here's another one, great one, Billy Gibbons, man.
Yeah, he innovated what Stevie Ray ran with. I think Billy Gibbons from the beginning.
They asked Hendrix who his favorite guitar player was, and he said Billy Gibbons.
Yeah, I remember that. I think I remember that.
What about Keith Richards?
Keith Richards did some incredible stuff, especially with open tuning. It was completely original, creative as can be, and tasteful, and sounded good with rhythms. I think that the reason I didn't gravitate towards him, because all of my young years, I was focused on Clapton, the way he played lead with Cream, and Page with the early Zeppelin, and Jeff Beck. Jeff Beck back then, I remember me and a good friend, a couple friends of mine that would listen to all this and lived it. Beck, he's weird. It's just weird the stuff he would do, but it was.
But those guys were monsters back then. I mean, they were gods.
Yeah,
they were gods.
Absolutely monsters.
Whereas, Keith was more of a songwriter. I mean, you had Lennon and McCartney, and you had Jagger and Richards, and they were just cranking out radio-friendly hits, for decades.
Right. So there you go. The Keith Richards was great. And the only reason that I didn't admire him a lot is because he was not a screaming lead guitar player.
Right. In fact, if anything, Ronnie Wood and Mick Taylor. My favorite Stones era were the Mick Taylor years. Right. I love that stuff.
Yeah,
man.
he's
fantastic. So you bought a couple CDs. Let's talk about some of these CDs you got here. So let's talk about this one first.
Sure.
Death by 1,000 Licks, which is a very cool name. Title.
That's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Well, I finished that. That was finalized about 10 years ago. For maybe 10 years prior to that, I was wanting to do something like that, and maybe and over maybe a 2 or 3 year period, I actually started, before doing recording, I actually started piecing together some material. I wanted it to be original. instrumental, and I wanted every track to be in its own world, which I hope you'll check that out. You'll see what I mean. Um, and I wanted to do all the parts myself. Um, really, because I felt I could get what I want that way, but it's not that easy to put together.
But this is a
good
culmination of years and years and years of you and your talent, right, and your efforts. You know, I mean, one of the names I just loved it. One of the names is Breakfell.
That's where the name of the band came from, and because we played that instrumental live.
Could you? Where can our listeners hear this right now?
I'm working.
Is it available for a download, or can they find it anywhere?
It's not anymore. I'm sorry to say. I let it go. It was on CD Baby for a while, and now I'm in touch with a tech friend of mine who's going to help me put that up on YouTube and try to get it.
We can put a couple cuts on the show.
Absolutely, dude.
So this next one here, Smashbox Symphony.
Yes. This project I did.
Is that your design? Like that was your idea?
No,
that's a very cool looking cover.
It is very cool. That idea came from my partner in that, who is my partner now in the Blue Genies, John West, a great singer, great writer, great partner. He and I have worked together now over about 16 years.
Very nice. So, what's the future plans for Jeff Adams? What do you got? What are you working on? What can we expect?
What I don't expect is a new record deal. So, since that business really doesn't exist anymore, but what I want and what I'm after with my partner John West is to hit the top of the market as high as we can go, playing this music that we love, and honor David Bowie. Now, it's possible we might expand on that at some point, but we're not thinking about it now.
I think it's brilliant that you chose David Bowie for several reasons. First of all, down here in Southwest Florida, right? Tribute bands do very well down here. They love tribute bands, and there's a lot of work.
Nationwide.
There's a lot of work. And if you're good, like I'm sure you guys are, I haven't heard anything yet, but I'm going to. You probably can travel all over the world and do this act,
right?
This tribute.
Right.
Plus, Bowie's music is timeless.
Absolutely.
And he was an incredible artist. And no one else. I've never heard of anybody. I never heard of any David Bowie tribute around here. I mean, you have to be the only one.
There's a few. And believe me, John and I have researched everyone we can find, not just in Florida, but nationally, because we're now with a national agency. We have two agencies we're working with, and Tribute Nation is. So we hope to go wherever we can.
You know, down here in Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, Venice, where there's a lot of men and women who are 67 years old that have disposable income. They're happily retired. They love the rock and roll.
Right.
We played Twisted Fork often, my band Jacked Up. And I noticed the crowds there are strong. And when they do a ticketed event, they'll do like an AC/DC tribute, a Bob Seger tribute.
Right.
They're sold out.
Right. Well, as a matter of fact, I just a couple days ago got the invite from Marcus at the Fork to talk to him about dates. So
excellent.
So it'll probably be next year, but that's what we're doing.
I'll tell you,
now.
The Blue Genies would be fantastic to open up for some of these other acts.
I think I agree with you totally. The band is totally ready. We've done a couple of shows. A couple of the shows we've done up north this year have just been the response has just been off the hook.
Is it a 90-minute set? Is it 160, 260s? Like how do you break it up?
We probably have about 105 minutes, but we won't, we only do what the format of the venue wants.
Okay.
If it's 190 minute, that's fine.
It's usually a 90. Sometimes it's just a 60. Depends who the headliner is. But then if you're headlining, then you would probably expect to do that whole 90.
Yeah. And I hope to never be in that position, because cutting 60, that's not enough, man. 90.
You know what's funny? Yes and no. I hear what you're saying. When I'm up there, I want to play all day and all
Yeah,
night.
man.
But at the same time, they're going to pay me the same amount of money, regardless if I'm 30 minutes,
Okay.
60 minutes, or 90 minutes.
Okay, nothing
So
wrong
from that
with that.
perspective, let's just do our set, do the best we can,
Yeah,
play our best material at the highest level, and then get out, you know?
that's nothing wrong with that, man.
As we close out the show, so what are some of the things you like to do outside of music? What are some of your hobbies and interests?
No, well, I have my wonderful wife, and we have lots of kids and a ton of grandkids. Um, we have a lot of them here in Florida. Unfortunately, a couple are up north, Virginia and Pennsylvania. But so we have the wonderful family thing. As far as personal interests and passions of mine, I did something else most of my life very seriously. It kind of was a perfect balance for my music, especially when I got into the music business in the early 70s, where things got more stressful. Um, and since I was 11, I loved pool and I played pool. And I ended up playing pretty seriously. I ended up playing some major tournaments in my later years. I did fair. I was no world champion.
Was it like The Color of Money?
Oh, I knew Mike Siegel, the guy who was behind the scenes champion that did that movie. He was a friend of mine. I used to practice with him in Towson.
Was that a great movie?
Oh yeah,
because a lot of us people that weren't on the inside like you were, we saw it. We're like, wow, man, that's crazy. These guys are here all night long playing, man, hustling each other.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. There was things. Anyway, so that was a passion of mine that I don't do anymore. I still have my cues hanging on my studio wall because it means a lot to me, but I don't play anymore. You know, it's for young people. Physically, it doesn't work. For
Right.
me.
So speaking of young people, and in our final statement here, what's some advice you can give to a young musician coming up?
Wow. Think big. Think outside the box, and most of all, don't ever give up. Something you want to do, something you want to build, something you want to be, the only way to fail is if you quit.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we're going to say goodbye.
All right.
Jeff, you've been a great guest, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
Kurt.
for coming on. Well, how can people contact you if they want to learn more about you or see some of your tour dates?
Please go to the Blue Genies Band Facebook page or website, and there's contact on both, and would love it. Love it.
You know, the minute Marcus gives you some Twisted Fork dates, I will announce them because Marcus is a friend and we promote them here on the show.
What a great guy.
Yeah.
He played trumpet with Breakfail a few times.
Did you see him on my show? I did an interview with him.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he did a whole interview.
Oh.
And his brother Bert did a show too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's a great drummer.
I'm going to look that up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right.
Thank you again.
We'll see you.
Kurt. Appreciate it.